Howdy, guys, and welcome to Cliff Notes, and welcome to night number 48 of the overnight feed recaps for Big Brother season 26. All right, Tuesdays in the Big Brother house. I think we've gotten spoiled a little bit by the past few weeks where we had so much going on. Yesterday, not so much. Now, we had some conversations. We'll talk about them. It isn't that we didn't have some gameplay, but we had a whole lot of downtime as well. A whole lot of people locked inside the house. They've lost the backyard without a lot to do, and it just made for a long, boring night. But I'm here to cover the conversations that were relevant to gameplay and all of that, and some of the basics now. So let's get right into it. First of all, just as a refresher, Leah used the veto. Quinn put up Joseph as a replacement. So come Thursday, we've got Joseph and Kimo and Rabina. One of them will pull themselves off at the BBAI arena. The other two go up for a vote. Still not real certain who would go home. We've got a lot of different scenarios that could take place. Well, a lot of different. We've got a few different scenarios that could take place based on which two end up on the block. And we had a lot of discussions about that and a lot of discussions about a potential alliance going forward that seems to be getting some legs about it. So let's get right off into it. As I mentioned, they did lose the backyard, so everyone is trapped inside for the next few days. You know, when the season started, 16 people, that house seems so crowded. Now they've got 10 people in there, and it just seems so empty by comparison. We had people that seem to kind of be able to go off and hang on their own, even with everyone trapped inside. As I mentioned, lots of hanging around, lots of chilling throughout the entire day. We had massages from Leah to Cam, Angela. Speaking of Cam, we're going to talk about Cam and some of the attention he's getting from some of the ladies of the Big Brother house. Leia gave him a massage. We've got Angela talking about her family and kids in a whole lot of detail, pretending that they are celebrities and getting asked for signatures. Lots of word games, pool matches upstairs. Quinn took a bath bomb that came from the Toxic Avenger, I think. It was a nice green, sludgy looking something. If I see that in a pool, I'm never jumping in. But Quinn had a bath with some green kind of something or other, and plenty of Leah stories throughout the day. At one point, Cam's they're in the upstairs lounge. Cam has kind of fallen asleep. And at one point, Leah's talking about that. She just seems to put people asleep with her stories. I say that Cam. It was actually Kimo, I think, that was asleep. But she mentions that, yeah, sometimes my stories tend to put people to sleep. But she had a lot of them. And on a day like this, you need stories, even the kind that maybe make you nod off every once in a while. Leah can tell some stories. All right. We've got T-Core and Chelsea talking to each other. They're wondering who to keep this week. The golden question, $64,000 question. Who do we hold on to this week? And not a lot of certainty to it. So T-Core and Chelsea are asking that question. T-Core is saying that Kimo wouldn't put Leah up, that he wants to work with the girls, in fact. So that's certainly something positive from his side. She's thinking that Kimo would, if Kimo was HOH, the Kimo would probably put up Cam and Quinn. So in other words, Chelsea, you know, we're protected if Kimo sticks around. But Chelsea is worried that Joseph could survive a vote against Kimo. If Rabina wins at BBAI Arena, it comes down to a vote between Joseph and Kimo. Chelsea's not certain that Kimo has the votes to stick around. But T-Core is counting Kimo's votes as T-Core and Chelsea and Leah, Angela perhaps combined, and that maybe MJ as well. And that should be enough to send Joseph out the door. We'll see. I still think of people like Chelsea. Chelsea later says that she wants to go the way the house goes. And I think that could be some of the deciding factors, just the perception in this house at the time. But T-Core's counting down the votes and feeling like they do have the votes to send Joseph out the door to hold on to Kimo. There's talk about the girls' alliance that seems to be forming. There's a lot of talk throughout the day with this. So they are talking about this girls' alliance. A discussion about whether Angela should be included as part of the girls' alliance. Well, it's brought up later. Angela's very excited about it. So yeah, there's certainly a lot of talk throughout the day that we'll continue to cover. All right, we've got Quinn and Joseph talking. Quinn is saying that he thinks that he can get all the people who voted out Tucker to now vote and save Joseph. Well, Joseph voted to save Tucker, right? They're on opposite sides. So for Quinn to think that he can get all of those votes, it seems a little optimistic on my part, but Quinn is telling Joseph we should be able to get all of those voters to save you. He's saying that he thinks that, I think this is Joseph saying that he thinks that he has Leah and Angela's support right now. And with Leah and Angela support, he thinks that he could also get Chelsea and MJ on board as well. I think he says at one point that he thinks he's also probably got Cam's vote. And with Cam, he should be able to get Chelsea and MJ on his side. So Joseph thinking that he has the votes to stay. Joseph is wondering, asking Quinn, saying, do you think Kimo knows that he's the actual target? And Quinn saying, yeah, he's got to know, right? Maybe he does know, although Kimo is certainly worried. But Kimo's always worried, right? But Joseph very much vocalizing that Kimo's the actual target and that he feels like he should be safe this week. Joseph is saying that this all should work out well, because now that Quinn put Joseph on the block, they're going to look so distant from one another. There's no way people are going to think Quinn and Joseph are working together. So he's saying, as long as I can just survive this week, it's going to work out pretty well for us. Well, you got to survive this week, though. That's the big question. Joseph is comparing his and Quinn's relationship to Dan and Memphis from season 10. They had I think it was the Renegades, if I remember. Anyway, they tried to distance themselves, and he's saying, we're just like Dan and Memphis from back then. I think you got a little ways to go with it, but appreciate the shout out to a past season. All right, we've got Mackenzie talking to Joseph. Joseph comes in and says, hey, I just want to know where your head's at. What's going on here? Remember, he just got through telling Quinn that he felt like he probably, through Cam, could get Mackenzie's vote. So he comes in, asks Mackenzie what her thinking is. She says, look, I'm good with you. I don't think that you're the target. I think you should be safe at this point in time. So she's very much playing it cool, and yeah, you're good. Saying what Joseph certainly wants to hear. Joseph is saying again that he would like to work with her. He says that he calls her a God-fearing woman. He says, I know you play honestly, and that's what I really admire, and so I'd love to work with you going forward. Mackenzie's, sure, she's somewhat non-committal, but certainly he is offering to try to work with Mackenzie going forward. All right, we've got T-Core and Rabina talking a little bit. Rabina is saying, I think this is down in the bathroom, if I recall. Rabina is saying that she wants to protect the people of color as much as possible, especially the women of color that are in this house. She says, it's gone pretty well these past few seasons. I just want to keep it going this point in time. It's more important than us. T-Core is agreeing with her at that point. Yeah, it's funny Rabina brings this up only after Tucker heads out the door. She didn't really seem that interested in this particular topic while Tucker was in. But now that Tucker's gone and she doesn't really have anybody and she's looking for a new spot to land, it's become a little bit more important of an issue for her, it seems like. But they had that conversation. All right, we've got Mackenzie and Chelsea talking. They're talking about Joseph's campaign. And again, he just talked to Mackenzie. So they're talking about his campaign, his pitches, and they're laughing about it. That they don't really think they're as effective as they need to be. They're saying that if Kimo wins the BBAI arena, Joseph's going home. Joseph will not have the votes over Rabina. Joseph will be going home. Chelsea is saying that if Joseph wins the BBAI arena, so that's Rabina versus Kimo in the house, she's thinking they should keep Rabina at this point in time. She's saying, first of all, Rabina will have their backs more than Kimo would. And if they sent Kimo out over Rabina, at that point, the women would have a 6-3 advantage over the men in terms of numbers. So again, it seems like there's some incentive to hold on to Rabina over Kimo. I said at the beginning of the week, I thought that Kimo was lowest in terms of pecking order to go out this Thursday. I maybe am saying he's number 2 now. Joseph, if he's on the block, I feel like Joseph maybe goes home. But if not, maybe Rabina is the one that's most protected, just based on these conversations. Mackenzie is saying that Leah would vote out Rabina over Kimo if it came down to it. And Chelsea is saying Cam would do the same thing. Both of them would choose Rabina over Kimo. Mackenzie is saying that she's most afraid of T-Core right now in the game that she's playing. But she's saying, but if they get Rabina out, that Kimo could be a huge target after that. And at that point, maybe they could pull T-Core over to their side and get her to work with them. She thinks that T-Core and Kimo would split up with Rabina gone. Really? I'm not sure that Mackenzie's reading the room that well when she says that. T-Core and Kimo been hanging out from day number 1. It seems like day number 1, right? They've been hanging out forever. So If Rubina's gone, yes, she's gotten a little closer to T-Core lately, but I still think T-Core and Kimo pull together even more so if Rubina's gone. But she's thinking that the two of them will split up if Rubina heads out the door. Chelsea is saying that she wants Kimo gone because she thinks that he would put both of them, Mackenzie and Chelsea, on the block if he had the opportunity. Chelsea is saying, though, that she thinks more about it, that Rubina probably is the glue that's holding Kimo and T-Core together. And so maybe there is some merit to sending her out the door. Isn't T-Core the actual glue? Feels like T-Core is the connection between Rubina and Kimo. If she's gone, Kimo and Rubina maybe not so close to one another. I still think out of necessity they would work together, but I think T-Core is the glue much more than Rubina is. But that's not what Chelsea's thinking. All right, lots of boredom in this house. Oh, just a lot of nothing going on. It's like a Seinfeld episode, a whole lot of nothing. They worked on a zombie dance. I think it was Kimo and Leah and Rubina and T-Core. It's actually kind of funny, but yeah, they worked on a zombie dance. The house got a jumbo-sized plastic version of the Jenga game, the block stacking game. You know, production's worried that there's not anything going on to give them content when they start sending in games to keep the house guest occupied. That's a good sign that they're recognizing not a lot going on either. So they got a game of Jenga and they played it. And yeah, we've all played Jenga before, and that was interesting for about 2 minutes. But they played Jenga a little bit. It just doesn't make the day any more interesting for us viewers. All right, we've got Chelsea talking to Kimo and Rubina. She's saying that she'll vote out Joseph over either one of them. She said, y'all don't have to worry. If Joseph's on the block, he's going home. I'm not voting y'all out. I'm voting him out. And they said, well, what if it's the two of us? What if Joseph wins BBAI Arena? Then what? And she said, I don't want to think about that. I just don't want to think about that. That would be a worst case situation. I think it's Kimo says, yeah, no, we're the same way. It's just horrible to think about, and we understand. And vote the way that you think it benefits your game. We're not campaigning against each other, and they're all agreeing that is not what they want to see. They want Joseph on that block come Thursday. Everyone at one point going over days. I think Chelsea and maybe Mackenzie are in the rock bedroom. They realize that everyone else is going over days in the living room, so they quickly go in there and go over it. And there's a few people. I think Chelsea is one of the. No, is it Chelsea? I can't remember. I don't have on my notes. There are a couple of them that seem to know their days very well. I would not be bragging about that or showing off to the other people in the house. They all applaud. Was it T-Core? I can't remember, but they're all applauding the couple of people that know their days very well. Keep that under wraps, because all that does is make you look like a bigger threat as you move later into the end game. But yeah, they're all working on their days a little bit. Production calls out Cam for sleeping, called out several people for sleeping last night or yesterday during the day. They've been a little lax in doing that, but again, everything's so boring. Looking for any content possible, the last thing they want is people sleeping and making it even worse. So Big Brother seemed a little more vigilant in terms of calling people out yesterday for sleeping. We had Chelsea at one point apologizing to Leah because I think the day before she was all grossed out because she went into the diary room and she found a toenail clipping. I don't know. How do you know it's a toenail versus a fingernail? I don't know. But she found a toenail clipping in the diary room on the couch or somewhere, and it all grossed her out. Well, she's apologizing to Leah because apparently she had accused Leah of leaving it because it was near a Kleenex or something. I don't know the story, but she accused Leah of doing it. There weren't really hard feelings. It wasn't that serious. But she did say, I'm sorry that I said it was your toenail clipping. It's just that kind of night. So yeah, they talk about toenail gate, I guess, a little bit. All right, we had more word games, chats in the living room for everyone except I think Joseph and Quinn were gone for most of it. But everyone else hanging out, just chilling for a lot of the day. We got Rubina and T-Core. Rubina crying a little bit, and I'm sure it's a stress of being on the block, a stress of losing Tucker, but we find out it also has to do with it's her mom's birthday today. So T-Core eventually gives her a hug. Joseph comes in and says he's sorry she's feeling so down and everything. But yeah, Rubina just having a rough day yesterday. It's stressful enough when you're on the block. When you're on the block and you're inside that house and trapped and the minutes just go excruciatingly long, ticking down the hours of the day, it just makes it even worse. And she's feeling all of that. All right, we've got Kimo and Rubina talking. Kimo is saying that he is scared and he's worried. Well, you're always scared and worried, right? I mean, that's Kimo's operating mode, but he has reason for it this week. He says he's scared and worried. T-Core saying, look, you just need to win this BBAA arena, and then you don't have to worry about it. You've won one before. You should be able to win another one. Just win that, and everything is good. But she's saying, but in case you don't, make sure that you secured the votes that you need to stay alive, just in case you're sitting next to Joseph. Now, it seems like they didn't really talk about him sitting next to Rubina. And I don't know if that's because T-Core is just trying to avoid that topic, or the assumption is that he would beat Rubina if it came down to the two of them. I think it may just be that T-Core maybe just doesn't want to be seen taking sides one way or the other when talking about Rubina versus Kimo. I'm not really sure, but they were talking really specifically, it seems like, about Kimo being on the block against Joseph and worrying that where the votes would go with that. T-Core is saying that obviously Kimo will have her vote, that he'll have Rubina's vote, and that he should have Chelsea's vote as well, and that he really needs to talk to probably Angela and Mackenzie and Leah. Those are the three votes he needs to work on getting before Thursday comes along. T-Core's talking to him, saying things that he can tell each of them in order to get their vote, that he's going to benefit their game, standard pitches and all of that. T-Core eventually says she has no clue who to work with going forward. Kimo says, all right, well, assume I survive. Assume Rubina survives. Say Joseph goes home. It's three of us. What do we do going forward? Who are we going to work with? Everything's in flux right now. Who do we work with? T-Core saying, I don't really know. Well, we know T-Core's had some advances, some people kind of inquiring to see if she's interested in some other alliances and all that, and maybe not including Kimo. So she's keeping that on a down low. She truly may not know where to go at this point in time. They're feeling a little lost at this point, regardless of how Thursday goes. All right, we've got Quinn and Kimo talking. Quinn is telling Kimo's trying to campaign to him a little bit, and Quinn is saying, look, I only had one target this week. And he's talking about Angela. He said, I only had one target. Now I have no idea which way people are leaning. Kimo is saying that Chelsea said that no one is talking about the votes, and that has him worried as well, as it should. When people are telling you that no one's talking, no one's giving them any kind of ideas about which way it's going, that sometimes is a pretty good sign that people are actually targeting you, and the person just doesn't want to acknowledge that. So yeah, Kimo is talking about that. Chelsea saying no one's talking. Quinn is saying, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just HOH. I'm not voting. I don't have a clue, Kimo. Quinn is saying at the end, they'll get Kimo the votes. He didn't say you have the votes. He said, Kimo, we'll get you the votes. Another thing I would have caught on to if I was Kimo. But yeah, he's trying to get assurances from Quinn, and I'm not sure he's really getting them. All right, we've got Chelsea talking to the cameras, one of her little Chelsea talks. She's got a little thing of Febreze with her. So I guess she's still a little upset with, well, everyone's trapped in the house. There's no outside fresh air coming in. She's recognizing that. She's complaining a little bit about a few people leaving some clothes and dental floss and things like that around the house. She's just not happy with that. But she's talking to the cameras. She's saying that she wants to shout for joy because Joseph is on the block, saying, oh, Joseph was so cocky, said, I've never been on the block. I've never been on there, and just feeling like that was this badge of honor. She said, well, now you're up there, so be careful what you wish for, or, don't get too arrogant. So she's happy that Joseph is on the block. She's making some predictions about how she thinks the rest of this week is going to go. She thinks Kimo's going to win the BBAI arena. At that point, not Joseph, who, based on what she just said, I would think she'd be voting out, but she thinks that Rubina will go home. If she thinks that, and she's wanting to vote with the House, it suggests to me that, at least in Chelsea's eyes, the perception is that perhaps Rubina is a bigger target than Kimo. Or maybe it's just wishful thinking on Chelsea's part. I still don't have a feel for it, but she's predicting that Rubina is going to go home, and then Cam is going to win HOH, and he's going to flip some stuff around and make some things happen. So predictions, wishful thinking, maybe a little bit of each. She's also saying that if a man does go home this week, that women will outnumber men 6-3, and that this could result in a very historic season. So she's still thinking about that women's alliance. All right, Angela is talking to Rubina in the bathroom downstairs. I think Rubina asked something about could she count on Angela's vote, and Angela grabs her hands and says, every time I talk, I just get in trouble. So, and she very, very consciously reaches over, grabs Rubina's hands, and say, does this give you an indication of an answer to you of what what I would say to you. And the implication by holding her hands like that is that, yes, she does have her vote. But Angela, again, is saying, every time I open my mouth, I get in trouble. So I'm not going to say anything, but I hope this gives you an indication for that question itself. So, yeah, it sounds like Angela is leaning towards keeping Rubina if it comes down to it. Rubina is saying that Joseph has just been rubbing people the wrong way in this house by saying that he can beat all the girls in the house. I think he was saying he can pretty much beat everyone in the house, but Rubina is now limiting it to the girls, and Angela saying, why would he say that? Rubina saying, I guess he's just cocky. I don't know. She's referencing the number of women that are left in this house and how she would love to see this happen. I don't think she ever said an alliance of women to Angela, but she certainly implied it very strongly and how much she would love to see it happen this season. There's talk about the veto ceremony itself. Last Monday, Rubina is saying that Quinn was absolutely blindsided. Angela saying, I'm not so sure. I saw Leah and Quinn spending a lot of time up in the HOH room ahead of time. I think they had a lot of discussion, so I'm not sure he was as blindsided as you think he was, Rubina. Angela's paying attention to who's up in this HOH room. She's sitting there in her chair in the kitchen watching everything. That's a great place to sit. You can monitor everything that's happening in that house. All right, we've got Angela and Chelsea talking. Speaking of, I haven't seen the Have Not room. Is the Have Not room still open? I haven't seen people hanging out in there. Maybe I just haven't caught it on the feeds at that particular time. Or are they getting ready for something different? I don't know. All right, we've got Angela and Chelsea talking. They're talking about women being up 6-3 if a man goes home this week. Again, that talk. Chelsea is saying that Tucker, a strong male, started the game, and it would be great if a woman was to end it. And Angela says, I am down with that. Absolutely. Chelsea walks out of the bathroom, and Angela just can barely contain her passion. She's, yeah. Oh, I'd love it. Oh, yeah. Angela seeing that there may be an opportunity for her to land with the women in this particular group, carry on for a few more weeks at least until all the women are in the house and the guys are gone. So Angela, very excited to think there may be an opportunity with this new group. All right, we've got Quinn and Chelsea talking. Quinn is saying that he doesn't want Joseph to go home. He finally comes out and says, look, I just don't want Joseph to go home. I hope y'all realize that. Or you realize that, Chelsea. Chelsea's thinking that Cam and Leah and Mackenzie will vote to save Joseph. So it should be okay. And then Quinn as well is another vote. So that should be enough to save Joseph. Chelsea is saying that she just wants to be on the right side of the vote. Whichever way it goes, I want to make sure I'm on the right side of it. Quinn is talking about the way things have gone in the past week. Angela saying it's so annoying that now Angela has made jury that we can't send her out pre-jury. So they're talking about that a little bit. Chelsea thinking, again, that they have the votes to save Joseph. Chelsea is saying that Kimo definitely had a final two with Tucker, that he's pretty smart. So, Quinn, be careful. I think Kimo's a little smarter maybe you're giving credit for. She's a little bit worried about Kimo. Again, she's laying the seeds for maybe getting Kimo out and continuing the ladies' numbers, I think. All right, Chelsea mentions that about Kimo at the final two. Cam eventually arrives as well. He's mentioning Leah. He's saying, look, I think Leah's going to vote the way the two of you vote. I think y'all have got her vote. So if y'all want to save Joseph, you should be able to save Joseph. It's saying that Rubina and Kimo would both put him up. So he doesn't really care between those two who goes home because either one would put him up if they had a chance. Quinn is thinking that Rubina is probably the better player at Big Brother, that Kimo plays the game a little bit more personally, that it's harder to reason with Kimo as a result. He says later he feels like he's already made up his mind. There would be no jury roundtable convincing or anything else, that Kimo's just settled and just not really susceptible to reasoning or convincing or campaigning or anything else. So a little bit more of a loose cannon, so to speak. All right, so they're mentioning that Leah enters at this point. Game talk pretty much stops. A little bit later, Kimo enters, and then later more people are showing up. We get Mackenzie in there. I think pretty much we get everyone in there at one point in time. At one point towards the very end, Quinn comes out of the bathroom crying. He's all worried. He says, look, I was just listening to music. I was thinking about us all hanging out here, hanging out together and enjoying being together and realizing that someone's going to have to go home, and it's just overwhelming. Did it really overwhelm Quinn, or is he just playing a little bit? Knowing Quinn, he could be playing, but it could be sincere. I couldn't tell watching, but he cries for a little bit, and everyone comforts him and says, "Oh, it's hard. It's so stressful." Yeah, it is. So he's talking about that. Maybe one of the bigger things that comes out of these little conversations or this little group get together. MJ and Cam both laying on the HOH bed side by side. Some of that you see over here, snuggling a little bit. They're laying on the HOH bed together. She's running her head through his hair and massaging his shoulders and doing some things like that. So certainly Cam's getting a little attention from Mackenzie. He got a little attention from Leah earlier in the day with a little bit of a back massage. So yeah, he's enjoying the house right now. And with that, we got T-Core and Chelsea talking just a little bit later downstairs, talking about Cam. Chelsea is saying that Cam is mean to her all day long, and then is getting petted by other women in the house at night, and it just doesn't like it. Chelsea's worried that Cam maybe is just saying words to her to keep her as a vote, to keep her on board with him. How sincere are the words that he tells her? And when he is nice to her, is he sincere? Or is it just gameplay? She's telling T-Core, saying, I understand what Rabina went through now with Tucker. I kind of get it. I understand not knowing what's real and what isn't real. So she's just a little fed up with Cam at this point in time. Lots of talk complaining about Cam, on and on and on between these two about him and everything he's doing and all that. T-Core is saying that she wants to take Kimo as far as she can in this game, but just so Chelsea knows, her priority is Chelsea and Rabina. Those two ladies and herself. That's the three she wants to protect. Kimo, as long as we can, but you, Chelsea, along with Rabina, that's my true allegiance right now. More talk about forming this women's alliance that these two are discussing. Chelsea is saying that'd be great. She's saying Quinn will be hard to beat, though. He's the one person that probably is going to be hard to beat. Get out of here. They're thinking his weakness is mental competition, so they need to make sure they try to get him out when a mental competition comes up. All right, finally, well, close to finally, we've got T-Core and Rabina talking. T-Core's feeling like she's missed out on a lot of gameplay last week, that she just didn't know a lot about what was going on. Maybe spent a little too much time upstairs in the HOH room, T-Core. But yeah, she's complaining about that. She's saying that she does think that Chelsea has her back. She's saying that she's ticked off at Cam and that Mackenzie doesn't know how Chelsea feels about Cam, and it's creating this friction that she just does not like. Rabina says at one point that T-Core is more aware than Mackenzie is about this Cam situation because T-Core is a person of color and Mackenzie isn't, and therefore she has to be a little more aware about situations and all that. T-Core is saying that they have dropped hints about the women's alliance, and that Rabina can use that to let Leah and others know that Rabina would be good for her game. You know, Leah, hey, women's alliance, you know, you and me, we're both women. I could certainly be of benefit as compared to others that I may be up on the block, like Kimo and Joseph, who are not going to be part of the women's alliance and all that. So she's saying, yeah, we dropped the hints. Use that with Leah and use that with Mackenzie to try to sell your game a little bit for that. But they also are saying they don't want to solidify this new women's alliance until after the HOH. They're saying, let's see who wins the HOH. And then we'll know better about who should be in, who shouldn't be in, if it's safe to do something like that, or if we need to play it on the download. So and it makes sense. I think that's a smart idea. Talk about it, get everyone on board, but don't actually call an alliance or reach any kind of agreement or anything until you get a little more information come the HOH aftermath. So they're talking about that. T-Core saying that Quinn messed up by not keeping Kimo safe this week, and she says as a result, Quinn's not a priority for me anymore. You know, he didn't protect Kimo, so why should I protect Quinn? He really messed up because I do not have his back anymore at this point in time. There's talking about everyone seeming to be on board with the girls' alliance. Well, first of all, sure, if you're a woman, why wouldn't you say yes to that? Absolutely. I do think even this Chelsea versus Mackenzie friction over Cam, I think we're still going to see. It's easy to call it a women's alliance as long as it benefits everyone in that particular group. But there's a lot of things that could still drive this thing apart. We still have some different relationships and such going on. All right, we've got Quinn and Joseph and Mackenzie talking. Eventually Mackenzie leaves, but she's up there to start with. Mackenzie complaining about Angela some more. She does a lot of complaining about Angela. Quinn talking about Kimo. saying that Kimo's already made up his mind. He's had grudges since week number 2. He tells Mackenzie, says, Kimo doesn't want to keep you. He doesn't want to work with you because of week number 2. Not sure what happened in week number 2. Is that when Kimo went on the block, I guess? And maybe Mackenzie and Matt were working against. I don't know, but he's saying, yeah, based on week number 2, Kimo still doesn't want to work with you, Mackenzie, or hold on to you at all. And she's a little surprised to hear that. Mackenzie is saying, whenever I try to talk game with Kimo, I try to improve our game and all of that. Whenever I try to talk to him, he immediately says, well, let me go get T-Court. And everything has to be with T-Court right there as well. So she says, he's not making it easy for me to try to get a little bit closer to him. Eventually, Mackenzie leaves, so it's just Quinn and Joseph with the last conversation of the evening. Quinn is telling Joseph that he's safe this week, saying, yeah, you're going to be good, Joseph. I'm not worried about that. Says that we should be able to count on Cam's vote, Leah's vote, Mackenzie's vote, Chelsea's vote, and maybe even T-Court. I don't see how they think they're going to get T-Court's vote, but Quinn still thinks he's a lot tighter with T-Court than he really is. But he's saying it doesn't matter. With Cam and Leah and MJ and Chelsea, that's 4 votes anyway. And so he feels like they can get the votes to save Joseph. Joseph is thinking that if Kimo was the person to go at this point, they probably could then pull in T-Court and Rubina to start working with them at that point. He's saying that Rubina has no one, that especially after they lose Kimo, that she's got no one. I think he's implying that after Kimo goes, they need to get rid of T-Court. And at that point, then Rubina has no one they can pull her in as well. But for now, maybe T-Court and Rubina would come over to him. Joseph is saying that Angela thinks that he's coming after Quinn, and he's kind of laughing about the fact that they've got everyone fooled so much that they're against each other. And he's saying, yeah, Angela thinks as soon as I get a chance, I'm going to come right after you, Quinn. So that works well to our advantage. Quinn is saying that he has a new fire lit under him because now he doesn't want to be stuck in a jury house with Angela. So he's got to fight to survive even more. So he doesn't have to go hang out in the jury house with Angela. So that's inspiring him. And then finally, I'm going to finish off with just this little opinion. Joseph is laughing, saying, how we're playing this game right behind Leah's back. How dumb is she that she doesn't recognize that we're playing this game, that we're close, but that everyone thinks we're far apart. We're actually close. She's not even catching it. What's her deal that she doesn't get this? Be careful, Joseph. Get a little cocky, get a little arrogant. You underestimate the wrong people, and you could pay the price. And you may pay the price come this Thursday. I think Leah is much more aware of a lot of things going on. Just because she doesn't vocalize it to some of the other people in the house doesn't mean that she's not aware. So we'll see if that little statement comes back to bite them. But eventually, Joseph and Quinn call it a night. Everyone in bed by 5 o'clock or so, Big Brother time. So as much as some of these house guests talked about how boring it was, how they were just waiting for it to reach 10 o'clock so they could go to bed, and all of that, yeah, it didn't happen. We still had people staying up late again. So there you have it, guys. Again, the big questions, I think, who do we vote for based on who gets before the jury vote come Thursday? That's very much undecided, and a whole lot of talk about this women's alliance. It seems like it's forming, and a little bit of friction between Chelsea and Mackenzie based on Cam maybe spending a little too much time flirting with too many of the women in the house. So we'll see how that pans out going forward. All right, tonight we've got an episode on TV. We'll see. It should be the veto competition. We'll get to see how Leah won this thing. That'll be fun to watch. And then I'll be back tomorrow morning to let y'all know if we had any last minute campaigning worthy of discussion, see if there's any resolution that's been reached, or it's going to come down to Thursday night, just like some of these past few weeks have. Hopefully it gets a little more exciting. We'll find out. Guys, y'all have a fantastic Wednesday. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow morning. Until then, SKD 143. Cheers, my friends.